I love Dark and Darker. I've been playing since that very first open alpha, and I fell in love with the game. It's my darling baby of a game. But this downfall is like crazy to watch. It's the Cycle Frontier all over again. I mean, this game is in my top 10 of all time, of all forever time. And I don't want to watch it just die because the devs don't want to focus on anything and implement anything that was promised. So I feel like I had to do or say something. So I made a commentary video because, yeah, I'm sure this will work. And there are plenty of issues, big and small, inside and outside the game, that could be talked about, but I wanted something I could actually give insight on. Something like Multiclassing, where I'd actually be able to give good input and ideas rather than point at something saying, I don't like it, fix it. And if you don't remember, Multiclassing was first added back in like late 2023. It's come back a couple times as like an end of season event. Two pretty controversial opinions, either saying that they hate it, it has no place in the game, it ruins class identity, punishes casuals, forces playing classes they don't even want to play, and it's just pretty much overall broken and unbalanced as a whole. And there's also the group that says that they actually really like it, and that it's really good for the... Oh, never mind. No one is saying that. That's because multiclassing fucking sucks. And you might be asking, oh, Kadio, why does it suck? Well, luckily you clicked on the video where I have a 3-part list on all the main issues, as well as a solution. It's just a skill tree. If you already know why multiclassing sucks, you can skip ahead, but if you didn't play during multiclassing or you need a refresher, let's get started with one of the main issues, which is
anything you can do, I can do better.
I can do anything better than you.
At its core, Dark and Darker is a class-based dungeon crawler. So when multiclassing gives you the ability to choose from literally any perk, any spell, any skill, it made choosing a class practically cosmetic, other than maybe your starting stats. But barbarians were going invis, rogues had longswords, and wizards were smiting, backstepping, and healing. It was just utter chaos. An important part in a hero or class shooter is knowing what class your opponent is and knowing what abilities they have. That's what lets you come up with counterplay and ways to approach the encounter. That's what makes it fun. Multiclassing saw this idea and just chucked it out the window. I mean, there was no way to tell what absolute monstrosity your opponent cooked up until you died. I mean, people have their main class because they fell in love with their playstyle and their identity, whether it be slinging spells or rushing in without a shirt on. The former multiclassing experience made these unique classes into just hollow shells. Druid is a perfect example of this. I mean, they have amazing abilities, but these abilities are even better on other classes. I mean, wizards and clerics were using Dreamwalk and all their healing spells, while barbarian and rogue were just able to use panther and bear better. So you never really saw anyone run base druid during multiclassing. Now that we know how multiclassing has affected identity, the next main issue I want to talk about is...
I am not gambling. I am not gambling. I am winning.
I love gambling. I love gambling so much. I mean, gambling is top 10 things of all time, of all existence, of forever. I mean, look at these guys. They are not even gambling with real money, but just watch how their faces light up.
And the house
Happens in Vegas.
always
Happens in Vegas.
wins. Nat 20!
But for real, as much as I love gambling, this system literally gave me gonorrhea. I mean, what do you mean that even if I have a creative idea that I want to implement, I have to grind all my classes to level 30, plus over level 100 on the class I actually want to play, just so I can have the chance to gamble and pray for the skill that I want to try, only to get campfire mastery for the bajillionth millionth time. And I mean, it's awful. And plus, the 24-hour cooldown to reset your tokens means that you have to wait forever to try and gamble the perks again, removes any ability to experiment or play around with build ideas, because you're focused on getting the most meta perk, meta skills, in order to not waste the tokens that you've already grinded for. Even if the gambling system was just a quick fix implemented to prevent cherry picking from the meta skills, there's still going to be people who grind it out or just get really lucky, and they have the best abilities in the game now with zero downside or any balancing because of luck. And the gambling system is one of the biggest contributors to multiclassing feeling so unfinished and rushed, probably because it was. But even after the multiple releases of multiclassing, we haven't seen any new adjustments or fixes that improve it. If only there was something that they abandoned a long time ago that could possibly improve multiclassing.
That never happened.
I just completely forgot what I was saying. Where was I? Right. Back to the third and final issue I have with multiclassing.
Yeah, whatever. It's broken.
In a game where you can choose from different abilities or classes or skills or team comps, there'll always be a meta pick. These abilities or choices are so overpowered, making them must picks in pretty much every case. I mean, it becomes absolutely pointless to play anything other than these characters or use these weapons. Think of Overwatch with the GOAT setup. For an entire year, the pro team was dominated by the triple tank, triple support comp. I mean, you would see teams leave their spawn, see the other team running GOATs, immediately 360 back to spawn to switch off. And this isn't anything new. I mean, games have had a meta or a best pick since forever. I mean, League of Legends, Dead by Daylight, Pokemon, Apex Legends, Elden Ring, Rainbow Six Siege, Marvel Rivals. Literally, the list goes on and on and on. I mean, they've all had characters or skills that were super powerful and were extremely hard or impossible to counter. Dark and Darker also has meta. Maybe not to the point of what Baguette did to Overwatch, but there are still plenty of best perk and skill setups for each and every single class. Think of fighters with their sprint, and then rangers have backstep, barbarians with Achilles, rogues with hide, clerics with DP. These are all amazing abilities, considered probably some of the best for each class, but what if we were to take all these amazing abilities and put them on one single character? What happens when you give players the power to make builds using only the best of every single skill and perk in the game?
AIDS! I got AIDS! I got AIDS! We're coming through!
I complained about having access to all these skills and perks in class identity, but that was because it made your wizard not feel like a wizard anymore because he was raging or he was backstepping or he's double jumping. This is more about how it affected actual gameplay and game design and how it's just fucking AIDS. Look at Team Warlock, for example. Already pretty annoying to fight. They curse you and then they run away, and once you do catch them, they randomize. But if you catch them again while randomize is down, they're fucked. But guess what? Now they got Dreamwalk! Combine that with some buff duration or some cooldown reduction, and they are like permanently unhittable except with magic. And keep in mind, you can cast spells while Dreamwalked. Like, what? If only there was some sort of way to test these things out beforehand, and some way to see that some of these combos are just stupidly broken and dumb and stupid. And did I mention that they could be stupid? I'm just kidding. I know that no one plays on the test server because it's useless. Alright, so A, multiclassing was unbalanced and overpowered, and by not participating, you put yourself actively in a disadvantageous position. Ugh. And B, with everyone chasing after the same 2 or 3 OP perks, there was literally no build diversity. So, to recap, having so many perks and abilities to choose from removed class identity, and it made your starting class feel unimportant. The system for actually unlocking new abilities was luck-based and super tedious, and there was just literally like no balancing for any of the skills between classes. But now that we've identified our 3 main issues, how do we actually solve these? I mean, it's not like there's some magical solution that was already planned to be added, but was just abandoned for like 3 or 4 years, and they didn't touch. I mean, Iron Mace are really good devs. I know they wouldn't do that. I mean, that would be fucking crazy. You gotta be fucking kidding me. That's right, the old man in the class training tab has always been the solution. I mean, he's been lying in wait for years, abandoned by SDF, because he has dreams of going to space. But for real, can we talk about how fucking insane this guy is? I refuse to believe that this is not rage bait. But let's ignore that and let's get back to talking about the training system, which, as previously mentioned, has been completely abandoned by the devs. But even 2 years ago, when they were actively making comments on it, they didn't really have a solid idea or foundation of what it was going to look like. The Q&A, they described it as being inspired by World of Warcraft and implied that they were only going to bring up skills to their current power level and it wasn't going to be a way to unlock new skills or new perks. And I can understand why they might have dropped it and didn't focus on it. After all, they were mid lawsuit and they wanted to focus on things like the new ice map or druid at this time. But the game's been out for over 3 years now, and they still haven't done anything. They just keep adding more stuff and more stuff. They add sorcerer, they add a new water map, they add new weapons, they add new mobs, but they don't update anything that's already in the game. I mean, some classes are going a year now without any new spells or perks or skills, as well as a year since the last time we've had any multiclassing or anything in the training tab. But never fear, for I did it. Kind of. Sorta. Not really. I have made a general outline for how to implement a skill tree and multiclassing together to not only make multiclassing balanced, but make sure that non-multiclassing is still viable. I also did change like 1 or 2 things, but I'll get into that later. But I want to give you a fair word of warning. I do not have a degree in graphic design or game design or anything like that. The actual pathing, the number of skills, the position of the skills, it's not final or fully thought out in any way. Without further ado, drumroll please. Wow, so awesome and so cool. Please ignore the fact that it sucks. I already told you I don't do graphic design. And yes, it is a rogue skill tree. The reason there's a spell memory wheel is because I want caltrops and smoke pods and trap disarming kits and lockpicks and daggers all to be in like a tool belt that they could use rather than on individual skills. Forget that for right now. The things I want you to focus on are the levels at the bottom, the duplicate of the skills with the +1 on them, and that final ability on the right. The levels at the bottom are like a requirement for your character to unlock perks past that point. With the max level 20 separated into 4 different groups. At level 0, you would start with 1 perk and then 2 abilities, and as you level up, you gain 1 token per level to unlock another slot, up until level 25, and then it's 1 token every 5 levels after that. This doesn't really affect classes normally, this is more for multiclassing, and I'll get into that later. The duplicate skills are upgraded versions of previous abilities. For example, maybe stealth is normally 10 steps, but stealth +1 is 15 steps while hidden. Or dagger proficiency is just the 10 physical damage bonus, but upgrading gives you that true damage that you normally get. I added these because there just weren't enough skills and perks to fill out the skill tree, so I had to get a little creative, plus as an incentive to actually go further down the skill tree. We have the skill on the right, which is glowing. That's called a capstone ability. If you're ever playing Dungeons & Dragons, this is going to be a little familiar, but basically every single class at level 20 gets a capstone ability that's considered their strongest skill. And the reason I wanted to add this was to combat multiclassing. This was my way of giving just pure single classes a way to combat the OP-ness. OP-ness. But I just wanted to make playing a single class viable. And I didn't want to do it by nerfing multiclassing to the ground. I want multiclassing to still be strong and you're still able to make these crazy combos, but going down just one class is also still beneficial. This is the feature that I'm the most worried about because it was kind of hard to find a skill that was worthy of being a capstone while not being super OP that everyone wants to pick it. In actual D&D, the capstone for a rogue is called Stroke of Luck, which turns any failure into success, whether it be an attack or a saving roll. It just automatically turns it into a 20. I wanted to turn it into sort of like an auto dodge feature where upon activation for like the next 6 to 8 seconds, the first incoming instance of damage, you automatically dodge out of the way. Or something like Uncanny Dodge, where it halves the damage. And I imagine it being more like Dark Reflection, where it's on like a cooldown. Like for every 45 seconds, the first instance of damage is halved by 50%, or something like that. But I came up with pretty cool ideas for Rogue and other classes, but it was hard to find like a middle ground where everything felt super duper good, but not super duper OP-ness. But if you don't like that idea, then that's fine with me because I don't really like it either. You could just replace it with even more upgrades to previous skills, like +2s or +1s for skills that don't already have it. Main issue that I'm sort of still split on is how I want to actually progress down the skill tree. Originally, in my mind, it was like this one. that I saw on Reddit from Blade. Do not click on their profile. Holy jump scare, dude. There would be 3 distinct paths that you actually had to choose which one to go down. I interpreted this as one single path where you could still spend tokens to unlock every single skill, but when actually slotting them into your character, you can only choose things around the same path, making each crossroad and fork in the road really matter. Do you like this approach? I was worried it was going to kill the already diluted class diversity because everyone would just choose the single best path and the most meta one, and there wouldn't be any experimentation that I want the skill tree to give. So I went with a Spider-Man method, where although there are different paths, going down one path doesn't lock off another. And eventually, if you get to a high enough level, you can unlock every single perk and skill. Sort of feels like it defeats the purpose of having a skill tree. But I feel like since they've already emphasized the fact that the skill tree is not about getting new perks and abilities, but just bringing up the power of old ones, it didn't make sense to use the first option. In my first draft, I did end up using the single path option, and I added like 9 to 15 new perks, spells, and skills to each and every single class. However, it felt wrong to add because that would require Iron Mates to actually put in a little bit of effort. If you do want to see that Google Doc, just let me know because it is 24 pages of just spells and skills and perks that I think would be cool to add to Dark and Darker. But let's get to how this skill tree actually works. You would just choose a class like the old system, but when clicking on a class, you would see a grayed out skill tree, and you could choose to invest levels into that class with a minimum of 5. Meaning that a fighter who invested 5 levels into Rogue would be able to spend 5 skill tokens on the Rogue skill tree. However, they wouldn't be able to get past the level 10 border unless they invested 10 levels into Rogue. However, you can never have less than 10 levels in your main class, meaning you can't run a Rogue with 15 levels of Barbarian. And the reason I designed it this way was that the first 5 levels you put into a class feel like you're dipping in. You're not getting all the greatest perks and skills, but you're getting things that still feel distinctly rogue or ranger or fighter. You don't get into the real meat of the class until you hit level 10, where you're able to unlock pretty much every single perk as well as a few upgrades here and there. Where level 15 and beyond means that that is your base class. And I wanted this to be all the final upgrades as well as more class defining skills and abilities. And the more I look at the list, I feel like Hide should definitely be in like level 10 area, but I do think Creep and Hide Mastery should definitely stay where they are, and maybe level 15 has an upgrade for Hide that gives you the 2 charges. And just for quality of life, resetting multi-class tokens is done by the fortune teller. Instead of on a 24-hour cooldown, it's just going to be on her shop cooldown. For resetting your actual class, I think that one's still probably going to be 24-hour cooldown, but with like the class trainer instead. Now, I can tell you're looking at this skill tree and being like, but Kydiel, how does this actually fix any of the issues we have with multiclassing? And I would say, holy shit, give me a clock tick, I'm getting there. Starting from the tail end, and then we'll work our way forward. Balancing skills and perks in Dark and Darker is something that's pretty hard to do because you only have 4 slots for perks and 2 slots for skills. However, not all perks and skills are the same. I mean, who's going to take something like herbal sensing over shapeshift mastery? I mean, it's just not going to happen. So, rather than buff herbal sensing to the moon and then nerf shapeshift mastery to the ground just to put them on the same level, instead, use the skill tree to make skill progression feel more natural. Players will go, herbal sensing is a skill that I started with, but shapeshift mastery is a skill I unlocked further down the skill tree, so it makes sense that it is an overall better skill. And as I keep moving on with the skill tree, the upgrades bring the skills and the perks that I wasn't using anymore up to par. And that's not even a multi-class thing. That is just for you, SDF, for free. But when it comes to multi-classing and balancing that specifically, imagine you're playing something like Barbarian, and you decide to multi-class into Fighter, just to use the skill's second win. Not only did you give up on your later upgrades of your skills and perks, your second win is also slightly weaker than someone who's playing a full Fighter, where your second win might be 30% of your HP over 12 seconds. The fighter who is full level 20 might have had one upgrade that made it 40% HP. Added another upgrade that made 40% HP over 8 seconds. This gives multiclassing an actual drawback, where although you can still get great synergy and utility out of multiclassing, you forsake the higher tier upgrades for skills in exchange for shorter durations and smaller buffs and things like that. As for gambling, you just don't gamble anymore. You just get to choose where you go. Wow, congratulations, you have player agency. And at its core, multiclassing will always be directly opposed to class identity because it's taking two identities and mushing them together. But by limiting the amount of classes you can multiclass into down to 2, as well as taking some of the more class-defining features and pushing them down the skill tree, multiclassing feels less like you're having an identity crisis and more like you're choosing a subclass. Subclass, you say? That's actually a pretty cool idea. Which makes sense, because I already thought of it, baby. That's right, we should have subclasses in Dark and Darker. If your multiclassing achieves perfect balance, then you should unlock a subclass with maybe like 2 or 3 new perks and abilities, or some new spells, or something like that. That'd be so cool and awesome. Plus, it'd be a lot less work for you, because I know you're lazy, SDF. Because by adding like just 2 or 3 new perks, you're adding 2 or 3 new perks for 2 different classes at once. You're killing 2 birds with 1 stone. And I'm not saying every single class has to multiclass into every single other class. I mean, maybe just like 1 or 2 other classes they can combo well with. For example, maybe a wizard that wants to get just a little sneaky takes 10 levels into rogue, which unlocks the subclass arcane trickster. And I gave them an unlockable passive that still require a token, but they don't take up perk slots. For example, Mage Hand, which is a skill that I added that got cut for Wizard, would work with Pickpocket, and spells could be put in the Rogue toolset and vice versa. You still need the Magic Focus, but they would just work together. I also added around like 2 to 3 new perks or skills for every single subclass, and for the Arcane Trickster, Hide would become the Mirror Image skill, where it creates a clone of the user when they become invisible. And if the creature attacks the clone, it bursts into colorful smoke over like a 0.75 meter area, and it disorients them, dealing like 10 magic damage, like something a little small. They would also get the Magical Ambush perk, where the casting process no longer removes invisibility buffs, whether it be from the potion, or the skill, or the spell. You'll still make noise, but it doesn't end until you actually cast a spell and it leaves your hand, or your staff, or your book, or your ball. And last but not least, they would get the Spell Thief perk, and on a 26-second cooldown, when they are hit by a spell, disable that spell for the spellcaster for 8 seconds. And if you have an empty slot in your spell wheel, gain the ability to use that spell for 16 seconds, if you have enough mem cap and the correct casting item. I mean, come on. Subclasses are just such a cool idea. I mean, you could be a sorcerer and a barbarian. Every time you shout, a random effect happens because you're wild magic. Or you're a rogue and a bard, and now you're a swashbuckler, and you're traveling the high seas, and you're jumping and dancing around. Or maybe you're a warlock and a druid, and instead of worshipping an evil, dirty demon, you worship the god of the forest, and now you do healing over time instead of damage over time, or something. I mean, I know that none of this is ever getting added to the game, or even seen by anyone who works on the game, but I'm just begging you to do something. This is a game that I love, and I spent hours and hours and hours playing, and watching it just go to shit is so fucking awful. And there's just like nothing I can do. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Do I think these changes and ideas I made are good? Kinda. They're definitely not perfect, and they're definitely not gonna save the game even if they were implemented like tomorrow. But I just want some more build diversity and some more stuff to do that's in the lobby as well as in the actual dungeon. And I'm bored of building true damage and more true damage and then max health and then move speed, and those are the only 3 stats I get because that's all you need in the game. And it's just so boring with nothing else to do in the lobby. I mean, multiclassing was fun. Even though it was broken, it was fun. Undeniably, it had a new layer. And even though I got pissed every time someone would come up with a new multiclassing idea and look at this crazy new build that I just thought up, I did have fun. And all I'm asking is for you to bring that back. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good night.